Anybody who's been watching me for a bit knows that GTA is a series that I care about a lot, so when I woke up this morning and saw GTA 6 trending on Twitter, I assumed that the Twitter algorithm was just playing with my emotions again. Because as anybody who uses Twitter knows, GTA 6 trends 5 times a week for pretty much no reason at all, every single time. As it turns out, today the game was trending for an actual reason. 90 videos of what is supposedly an early alpha build of GTA 6 from 2021 got leaked onto the internet. This is big. Bigger than you realize. Now I want to give a quick disclaimer, a lot of people are having their videos taken down for showing footage, so I won't be showing any of it in this video. But the fact that the videos are being taken down for containing this footage pretty much confirms that it's 99.6% real, because I don't know what purpose there would be to censor something that isn't official. For me, I've always been a fan of pre-release beta content and seeing things we weren't necessarily supposed to, usually in the context of games that have already been out for years. But to see an extensive video account of a beta of a highly anticipated game that we've been waiting on for what feels like an eternity, it's kind of exciting, I gotta admit. Even though I can't show you any of the footage, I decided I'm going to talk about it because apparently I'm a plumber and that's what I do. I talk about leaks. Hey, Rockstar, what's going on with your U-Trap? Hey, you got all these GTA 6 leaks coming out of your backflow preventer. Hey! First off, let's talk about the most important part of every video game ever made, the graphics. Personally, I won't be heartbroken by underwhelming graphics as long as everything else is on point, but it's the first thing most people will notice, so it's worth talking about. Visually, the footage shows some very pretty looking environments, but a lot of the character models and animations look really wonky, which is almost definitely because they're placeholders designed specifically for testing purposes. A lot of the environments aren't quite finished, which is totally to be expected. This is an early alpha build of a game that is more than likely a couple years from completion by the most optimistic estimates. This was never meant to be shown to the public and to be subjected to the scrutiny you might apply to a trailer or a released game, so it's definitely not fair to complain about the graphics at this time. So really, this is more of an observation than a complaint. The footage is covered with code and debuggers, so it's definitely not intended to be consumer ready yet. What's funny about that is, even though it's nowhere near completion, it still looks more stable than Cyberpunk was at launch, so that's pretty impressive. And as I said, there are aspects of the graphics that actually do look very good, like some of the textures and environmental assets are very promising. A lot of people were picturing Red Dead 2 level visuals. I don't think it's quite there yet, but when the game actually comes out, I imagine the visuals will be at least in the ballpark of Dead Boy 2. That game cost $3 billion to make and just as many if not more man-hours, so I can't imagine Rockstar sitting on that phenomenal technology and not at least using part of it for the next GTA. This series made Rockstar who they are, so I can't imagine them squandering something like that. At the same time though, I would hope that the visuals can be modified to be within reach of last-gen machines. One video showed the PS4 UI, but that might not mean anything at all. I mean, I'm not a developer, so I had no idea what I was looking at, right? There were some performance dips in heavier scenes, which will probably depend on the hardware it's being played on, and there are almost definitely more optimizations being made in the future. But any way you look at it, this thing's probably not going to be running on a PS4 or Xbox One without some major compromises, if at all. I would love to be wrong. Sony actually increased the price of the PS5 in Canada, and if they keep that shit up, it's gonna be $1,000 by the time the game comes out, so that ain't gonna fly for me. I will say though that there are references to RTX graphics cards and whatnot, which suggest that this is definitely running on PC hardware, which in turn suggests that the PC version is a priority, which is actually really cool because Rockstar has been a bit of a dick when it comes to PC ports, so it would be very nice for them to turn that around. I've seen some concerns about the UI. It seems to suggest that there will be deeper options for interacting and robbing NPCs in stores and whatnot, which does seem very cool. The layout does look a tiny bit cluttered at times, but it's worth noting some of the footage shows both button prompts and placeholder text boxes denoting some things that are supposed to be happening for debugging purposes, which probably makes it look far worse than it's actually supposed to be. I've heard some people compare it to Watch Dogs, and I can definitely see the resemblance there. I am hoping it gets tweaked, or at least that you're allowed to tweak it yourself when it comes out. One of the things I've always liked about Rockstar's games is that the UI is relatively clean. You still have waypoints and markers, but it's mostly relegated to the little mini-map in the corner, so it's rarely intrusive, which is really great for these kinds of games, since soaking in the open world details has always been such a big part of it. So you really don't want to be distracted by a bunch of visual rubbish. The game appears to be set in Vice City. There's a Vice City PD logo somewhere and a Vice City Metro logo on the transit system, which is pretty much a dead giveaway. This is a very welcome decision. We don't need another Liberty City and we don't need more Los Santos, but we haven't seen Vice City since the dumpy PS2 era, so it'll be really cool to see what that looks like with modern visuals. Not like that. I'd love to see some kind of subtle tribute to Tommy Vercetti in a way that also pays respects to Ray Liotta. May he rest in peace. Story-wise, things are kept relatively vague, but we can piece together some loose context for the game. There are two protagonists, a man and a woman, and there's a scene where they rob a diner with a jukebox, which reminds me a lot of Pulp Fiction, so it's very possibly a Bonnie and Clyde type story. I've heard some people say this could mean there's a co-op mode, which would add a really neat dynamic to the gameplay. As everyone knows, Rockstar's mission designs have started to stagnate in recent years, so something like this would be welcome, depending on how well they pull it off. There's a scene where these rednecks talk about social media conspiracies referencing Jay Norris, which is the Life Invader guy that you kill in GTA 5. This suggests that 6 exists in the same continuity. They specify that he's dead, which means that it's set a few years after GTA 5, so I wouldn't be surprised if it contains numerous other references when it's finished. The big question is which timeline it's based on. In case you never beat GTA 5, that game actually has 3 different endings, and the one that makes the most sense to me would probably be the Death Wish ending where everyone lives. Ironic. I feel like that would give them the most options. In its current state, I'm not sure I can definitively make a judgment on whether or not it will be good or bad, but that said, I played the other titles so damn much that even if it is bad, it will still be welcome on the grounds that it's different, something new. It is worth reminding everyone that Rockstar as a company has gone through a degree of restructuring. Most notably, Dan Houser is no longer a part of the company, which was a big concern for a lot of people. I've seen some people get worried that the game was going to be heavily sanitized and censored or whatever, but I'm a little less worried about that. There's a strip club shown in the footage, so that's gotta be a good sign for people who are worried on that front. It is worth noting that for the developers, this is probably a massive headache, and while I can sympathize with these guys, I'm pretty optimistic about what I'm seeing so far, which speaks to their prowess as developers. Very few of us can say with honesty that we really know anything about the game design process, so it's probably inappropriate to tell them how they're supposed to feel about this or to even make judgments on the footage, but personally, I'm actually very excited about it, and my feelings for this game are reinvigorated. When all is said and done, this is probably the biggest gaming news I've seen in a while, and Pikmin 4 got a trailer last Tuesday, so that is saying a lot. I do feel bad for the developers, but at the same time I'm very proud of them because they're probably working their asses off to get this thing to the standards that we expect from a GTA title. But if nothing else, I am 100% sure that the final product will be far, far better than Saints Row.